Today we're visiting with North Dakota Game and Fish Director Jeb Williams, and we're going to talk about the upcoming advisory board meetings. I'm Mike Anderson with the North Dakota Game and Fish Department. Jeb, first of all, what are advisory board meetings?
Well, the North Dakota Game and Fish Department has advisory board members that are appointed by the governor. It started back in the 1960s, where the idea there was to have a liaison there between the department and the public and 8 districts across the state. So the governor appoints 8 advisory board members to the Game and Fish Department Advisory Board, and then throughout the year, the department, along with the advisory board members, host 8 meetings in the fall and then 8 meetings in the spring.
This year we're holding the meetings in person again.
Yeah, so last spring, Mike, we did as well. After we had the virtual meetings the previous fall, but we're back to the in-person. That was something that we recognized, and it's something that brings a lot of value is from the public standpoint and our standpoint as well, as having that personal interaction with folks about outdoor issues is something that is very valuable to us as a department to hear the input. And then I think it's also very valuable to the public to hear what's going on with the department as well.
Jeb, obviously this is for the public to come in and talk about local issues, but Game and Fish also has an agenda. What are some of the topics this year?
So we're in the cycle of a new fishing proclamation, so that's going to be something that's going to be discussed. Some upcoming, some changes associated with that, like is discussed each 2-year cycle when that is renewed. And then also something that's important to the department is to have a discussion with the public about drought conditions, and we talk a lot about it from a terrestrial standpoint, but we also need to have the discussion with the public about if the drought conditions continue, as far as what that means for lake access. And we're starting to see some there's some check engine lights that are going off a little bit in some of these areas as far as what that's going to mean for lake access in different parts of the state if drought does continue into the spring. So that's going to be something we want to visit about. Obviously, we want to talk about electronic posting, and that's going to be more of an input session. The department really wants to hear from landowners and the public about how that's went. We have had some good discussions with folks throughout the fall, but these 8 meetings all across the state are going to give us some pretty good feedback on how that went. Obviously, deer disease, EHD, CWD, those things that are important to the department and that have impacted hunters this year, especially EHD. And then we also have, some general discussions about some changes that were made due to chronic wasting disease and transportation issues. An additional topic we want to discuss with the public is the department is engaged in what's called as their Meadowlark Initiative. It's a grassland initiative across the state that involves a lot of different groups, a partnership effort that we think is really beneficial heading into the future, and we want to make sure that we update and educate the public as far as what the department is doing on that front.
Jeb, typically we have these meetings right after the deer gun season ends. This is a good place to have discussions with Game and Fish administration.
It is, and it's something that, like you talked about earlier, Mike, it's, through my 22 or 23 year career with the department, I've been to an awful lot of advisory board meetings, and it's a great way for the department to, again, stay in touch with individuals across the state as far as what's important to them, what the local issues are, and like you mentioned, the fall is right after the deer gun season, and so we do naturally get a lot of deer discussion there. But it's also just good opportunity to discuss a wide variety of issues that have taken place in the fall, or it doesn't have to necessarily be the fall, but like we talked about, it definitely a lot of fall hunting issues do get discussed just due to the timing of those, whereas our spring advisory board meetings tend to be sometimes maybe a little more fishing related just due to that timing. But it's just a great opportunity for people to come and talk to us about issues that are important to them, and listen to the department about our thoughts or future actions or different processes that we have in place for managing fish and wildlife resources for them, the public.
I believe the first meeting starts November 22nd, but where can somebody find a list of all the meetings and locations and times?
It'll be advertised on our website. So yeah, I'd encourage anybody to reach out and on that site and look at those specific dates and locations, and if they'd like to attend and participate in some of the discussion, I think they'd really enjoy it.
A lot of great information, Jeb. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.